Hey guys, Growth Camel ADV, episode 3 of our Ducati Desert X BDR Prep video series. So we got a bunch of stuff on the go. Things are coming together. Total crunch time. We're gone in like 36 hours. So coming down to the wire, but things are looking good. I didn't mention our high fender kit. Kind of thrown together. Has turned out really well though. I did some wiring last night. So we've got the GPS wired. I've got power here for heated grips. This is an ugly ass rat's nest here. I want to put a fuse block in here. Don't have time. So right now it's a bunch of ring terminals, which is like way less than ideal. Is what it is. We'll get that sorted out when we get back. Pannier racks are done. Skid plate bits and pieces back from the metal shop here. And then we need to figure out our upper mounts for the skid plate here. Ducati with this motor design didn't really give us a whole lot to tie to for a skid plate. There's nothing up here to tie a skid plate into because that's motor. So the factory splash guard skid plate thing actually bolted in here. We're not putting a real skid plate to the motor. That makes no sense. So we got to come up to the frame mounts here. This is all fuel tank, so none of this is accessible. So we've got a beefy rear hanger mount here, there. And then this is the only place to tie in up here, so machined up some bungs. And then a real long bolt that goes all the way through to the other side. And then we have to figure out the mounts. So that's what we're up to today. We've got some ideas. We'll see how it goes. It has to work because I'm leaving. So, on a side note, this is some fucking bullshit. This is probably the most annoying bike I've ever worked on to take the tank off of, take the steering stabilizer off so you can get the front tank mount off, pull all the body panels off, weird fasteners down here. This is just a bizarre setup that they've got down here. And then, of course, your fuel crossover line. We've got our high pressure fuel line on the other side, sending unit here, fuel tank power, high pressure line, the other side of the crossover line, fuel overflow hose, vent to the charcoal canister, and the bodywork. Just annoying to get everything off. And you need to do that to get to the air filter. So it's something that you're going to have to do regularly, which is shitty. Now I know with the engine configuration here, the way the cylinders are going off on the side, the airbox has to be between them. There's no option to put the airbox back here. It just doesn't work on this motor. So the only way to get around having the air filter under the tank would have been to do it like the 990s, the two-piece tank with the cover in the middle. That would have been really cool. Would have driven the price way up though, so I'm sure that's why they didn't do it. So yeah, everything fits pretty well. There's this goofy clamp here, the exhaust clamp from Ducati. The factory form, they had this spun all the way down, and then their skid plate had a big bump out in it for that, which is weird. I don't know why they didn't just roll it up. And so they had the skid plate tucked way up to gain ground clearance, but the cat is right here. Like, we've got less than 1/8 of an inch between the skid plate and the seam on the cat. So that's the second lowest point, side stand here being the lowest. So there's really no point in having the skid plate up way higher when you're just gonna hit that anyway. So we're angled up at the front, and then we're as tight as we can be back here. And I think it's a good mix. We'll figure out something down here to protect the side stand switch and get us kind of gliding over that. Every time I go to do video, there's some new noise. Every fucking time. This new shop is like, there's a bunch of stuff that I really like about it. We have way more room. The parking is better. It's a little busier, which is annoying. But we've got one neighbor to the side that's open 7 days a week, and they're here from like 6 in the morning till 9 at night. We've got an auto shop on the other side, so they're always banging away, and vehicles coming in on tow trucks and stuff backing up, and backup alarms. And then we have train tracks, so there's trains coming by and dropping off cars and spooling up and whatever. And then they apparently have air raid sirens now. It makes it really difficult to do audio or video with clean audio. So this is the engine bolt here, and it slides through the frame, through the motor to the other side. And normally this stuff is like 2 separate bolts, one from each side. and this one goes all the way through. So it's 12 millimeters here, just under 10 here, and it just supports the motor in the frame. So we spun these guys up, and the mounting bracket's going to weld to here, and then this bolt is obviously not going to be long enough because it sits in the pocket. So we would have to machine it down, and then there's no strength on these. It's just not going to work. So I need to figure out what to do with that. I got a chunk of 1/2 inch 1018 rod. So this is 12.7 mil. This is 12 and then 10. So I'm gonna have to turn this whole rod down to 12, and then the center part to 10 or 11, doesn't really matter, just a little bit smaller than this. And then we're gonna tap the ends. So we're basically just making a longer version of this. It's gonna stick out quite a bit further on each end, is the way to make this happen. So yeah, it's just long enough to get some thread on either side for a nut. I use that anyway. So the camera just turned off, which is super annoying. I used a parting tool to split this apart. So that we've got a little bit of a spud here that's going to go into the frame, and then we've got a spacer that's going to sit inside the pocket in the frame. Oh, well, it goes in from the top when the tank.
When the tank's not there, but that is entirely, that's perfect length for that shoulder.
Okay.
And then just when it came out, when I bolted it up here fast and onto here fast, it moved it out and flushed it up to this outside, and we had no gap, right? So it looked really good. So let me bolt that up, and then you can see that.
A little bit there. So I had a metal bandsaw that lasted for 20 years. And then it finally had enough issues. We bought a new saw 2 weeks ago, and it's broken like 4 times in 2 weeks. The other saw, 22 years actually, or was it 99? 23 years. 23 years, no issues, except that spring broke 6 months ago. And then we buy a new one that was twice as much money, and every time I use it, there's some issue. Like, the stupid plastic wheel here is not turning the shaft, and the blade always comes off, and this thing's gushing oil, and 1 star, would not recommend. So one of the last things on the bike, it's small detail, but it's like super important, is I need tools to be able to get tires off or wheels off. So the front is a 30 mil 6-point, but the back is the 36-12 point, which is a big guy. It's super heavy, 3/4 drive, so we're going to need an adapter to 1/2, and then probably an adapter to 3/8. So that sucks, and I don't want to carry all that stuff. So we've got flat wrenches drawn up for these that have those dimensions. I'm just not going to get them back in time. Our plasma table is currently down, so I can't cut anything before we go. So I'm going to cut a bit off these sockets, maybe 3/8 or 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to weld them to flat bars. So I'm going to make a wrench that on one end has a 36-12, and the other end has a 30 mil, probably a 12 as well, because I don't have any 6 here. I'm just going to cut them off in the vise with the grinder with a zip disc, and then try and square them up on the lathe. It's pretty hard material though, and I don't know that I have tooling that's going to be happy with this, but we will see. So this is a less than ideal situation. We have like tool steel, well, whatever this is, the socket, and it's an interrupted cut because it's kind of rough from doing it with the saw. So we've got an interrupted cut on super hard material. So the lathe tools might not be very happy with this. We'll see. It was unhappy. Big gross interrupted cut.
Ho ho!